May 4th. Had a dream, but I don't remember much of it. I was so tired. I remember seeing him though. This new fireside. That felt good. But I just remember his face. But I woke up still wondering, still thinking about the protests, thinking about what I would do differently. What I would do differently. And then realizing, remembering that we have all the answers already. We really do. Like we already have the answers. We've just forgotten how to do it, right? And I'm thinking about like tribal communities, right? How they're able, for the most part, to live peacefully and and just the basic element. I mean, gosh, we create movies. We create movies. How can we not create something, right? Where because I was even thinking about the protests with and the impact, right, that it would have, this element of abortion and the impact that it would have on women, right, and the more vulnerable populations of being stuck in a marriage, right, that they don't want to be in, or with a reminder of trauma, right? And maybe it's not so much the reminder. I mean, that's just another story. But just this element of like feeling stuck because they didn't have a place of their own. That's where I first started thinking. I'm like, this element of like not having a place of your own, right? I know what that feels like. To feel like I have to depend on someone and stay with someone because of the fear that I couldn't do it alone. And so what if there was the law of one? This law of one, and the law of one was not just of oneself, but of one community. And this element of, if my basic needs are met, then I too, it's an agreement, really, an agreement that if my basic needs are met, then I will play my part, I will do my part to make sure the needs of my community are met. That's just a simple agreement that if my needs are met, I will do my part, whatever that may be, to ensure that, the needs of my community are met. The law of one. So that would require that everyone have their own place, right? Basic needs, shelter, food, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? That all of that was not to be a worry. And in exchange, right, there's this element of what part, where in the community will you contribute, right? Where in the community? And so it's not a matter of like, it's a matter of just finding a place, right? And because we're so diverse, there's always going to, I was just talking to this about a client of mine of yesterday actually, this element, I was explaining to her that, you know, we're all on a spectrum. Oh, because we were talking about autism. And I'm like, you know, autism is on a spectrum, but so is life. Life is on a spectrum in terms of our physical abilities, right? You have someone that has physical limitations to where they're dependent on someone else for their survival. But then to the other extreme of the Olympics, right? People who are with strength and this ability to do things that other people can't do, okay? And then there's all of us somewhere in the middle. Same thing with emotions, right? It's on a spectrum. There's people that experience emotions so intensely and process that information so intensely, to the other extreme where you have people that emotions are like, right? Like certain people on the spectrum, autism spectrum, where complex emotions are difficult to understand. So in terms of contribution, it only makes sense that there's going to be a wide range, right, of that, just basic stuff. The law of one. The law of one. One's needs are met, but in so the balance, right? The balance of the law of one. I contribute to make sure that the community's needs are met. So what does that mean? How would that be applicable, right? I mean, we've had COVID, so we know what it looks like when the world stops for a moment. Almost a moment. Everything stopped. And so where would we start in terms of implementation? And I just want to capture this so I don't forget, and then maybe build upon it later. But you would start with the most vulnerable, the ones who don't have a roof over their heads, or who have difficulty sustaining, you know, basic living. Because the ones who have, right, versus the have-nots, they have. So they can last a little longer, right? For the most part, I'm assuming maybe, but I could be wrong. And so we stabilize those who, we stabilize those who don't have. We stabilize those who don't have, right? The equal distribution of what exists. And, you know, these laws about like, oh, the house that you live in, but if you trail it back, it's about livelihood, right? Why are, you know, loan officers in the line of work that they do? Because it's to feed their families, right? For their own survival. But if their survival is no longer, right, an element of I need to do this work to survive, then the work no longer is valid, right? It no longer is valuable because you don't need it to survive, because your survival is already set, right? That makes sense. And if there's an element of desire, because it goes back to human behavior. What's the purpose? What purpose does it serve for you to have power and balance, right? It's 10-10. power balance, it's because there's something off within us, right? If we listen to ourselves, to our bodies, to our behaviors, to our emotions, it's because we're trying to compensate an imbalance within us. If we're wanting power, too much of it, there's an imbalance. It's already set. It's already known. There's an imbalance within you. So I was thinking, well, there's only one of me, right? How would I would need to train people, but to look for the signs, right? To listen. How would I do that? And then the other question was, how would I know if someone's trustworthy, right? And then I realized, well, that there's, like Christina Lopes, like I to a certain degree, I mean, she's been a teacher for me from a distance with her videos and NJ, and then I started thinking, well, it's all the gurus, it's all the people who have not held power, who were pushed away, would be the ones to not hold power, but to share, to be the guiding light for others, right? To because they know they're tapped in to the collective unconscious, or what is it? I don't know what it's called, but they're tapped in. So they know, the vision is the same. That's the thing. The vision is the same for all of us who are tapped in. The vision is the same. But then there's always that fear of like, well, who's authentic and who isn't, right? And then I figured, well, I mean, if I have dreams about people and when they're not being completely honest, then I only assume that others do too, right? Those who have that, like Christina, I'm assuming, right? I mean, that they have that ability to kind of see through people, right? To see through people's intentions, right? Knock on wood that they do. and that's how we'll know, right? That's how we'll know. Because I believe that more and more people are going to be able to see right through one another. It's already happening. And so it's this element of like, it's going to be harder for people to hide their intentions. And then the other part, right, I was thinking about like the whole marriage thing. It's, this element of like making it more of an agreement so that it's not, because one of the papers that I wrote on for one of my courses about, well, this one, preventing sexual violence, was to just kind of go over what Project Survive believes in terms of the factors that contribute to sexual violence, right? The political, the social, and the political, social. Darn it! I should know this already. Because it's the political, the social. Gosh, why am I blanking out on it? Causes of interpersonal violence. It's the political, the social, psychological. Oh, Yubi. That's my line of work. Political, social, and psychological. Why was I saying that? Oh, And so in my paper, I had to give examples. And then I realized it's still all connected to traditional religion. Like it's all, like the US came, like the US was created in the effort of religious freedom. Religious freedom. The US was created out of this desire for religious freedom, right? From England. Yet, all the laws that were created during that time still had some tie to religious beliefs, because religion is oftentimes what we use to speak on how we do life with one another. And so all of those initial laws were created from a religious perspective. So to a certain degree, right, this idea that we've eliminated the division of church and state never really occurred. Never really occurred. It was always embedded. It was embedded from day one. So this idea, right, because a lot of people yesterday in my class were talking about the fear that they had if this is overruled, the fear of, what else could be overruled, right? Because this is the first time in history where, at this level, right, a right is taken away from individuals. And so other people were like talking about, adoption, like fearing because they're in, same-sex religion or same-sex relationships, and just, people who are wanting to get married and what that's going to say about, like, it's just this ripple effect. And the worry that just because it doesn't look a certain way, they won't have the same rights. Like, that's not fair, right? That's not balanced. And so instead, that's the other part, the law of three. The law of one, balanced one, the law of three. Where if two individuals or two entities decide to create something together, right? It's the third, that becomes the law of three. It's the third component to whatever interactions they're going to have. The law of three, to maintain balance. It becomes a law of three. So if you wanted to create a family together, the family is the law of three. If you wanted to have some type of working relationship, it would become a law of three. If you wanted to collaborate, it would become the law of three. And in that agreement, maybe not a law, but agreement of three, in that agreement, right, there's certain elements that are like mandatory or not, like the basics, right? And then if you want to build on that, you can. And if you want to eliminate some of these basic agreements, there has to be like this written, approved, you basically have to, speak your truth. Like what benefit would it be for this interaction to have some of these basic agreements removed, right? So a basic agreement could be that at any point in time, anyone could change their mind and walk away from this if it's not in their highest good, right? And again, I mentioned it before, like who I mean, if that was a stated agreement between even nations, like, people are going to work hard, right? If the benefit is for both parties, people are going to work hard to maintain that relationship. That's what I was thinking about. I mean, I can't be the only one who sees right through people, that has dreams of people's intentions. and that's how we would keep law. But then it's like, how would you know? Well, there's a collective. That's the thing. Like, it wouldn't be like that one holds power, because it's a shared experience, really, right? I can't be the only one who's able to do that. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I'll end it because I need to get ready for work. Those are just beginning thoughts, I guess. Just entertaining ideas. That's not even touching on like those who don't want to abide by all that. Who choose not to. Or those that are farther from source, right? They're farther, so their behaviors are going to show that. I don't know. It's definitely going to cause a divide, I think. It always does. Because, the old has to, fall apart in order for the new to be built. I guess. Time will tell. Okay, I need to stay focused. I have lots to do. Hi, my name is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us. In whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth, this just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience, and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best, and we'll see what else comes next for me. So